Hey everybody, Brian Von Vier here, back at it again with another set of D&D stories. Today, let's talk about the worst group you've ever been a part of. Everyone is on their phone in between combat rounds. Combat takes 2 hours because no one knows what their abilities are at, even at level 10. What do I add to my second attack again? Duh. No roleplay. I rolled a 20. My diplomacy works. Group fizzles out because DM graduates 3 months before the campaign was finished due to previously noted delays. Group all blames DM for, quote-unquote, leaving them before their character's story was finished. Well, if you're not gonna roleplay anyway there, buddy boy, I guess it's already done. DM had us going through Death House, oh god, asked us where we wanted to long rest, then punished us because the house wasn't cleared yet. Put us against waves of unskippable fights, then expected us to sacrifice a party member. Took 3 sessions to clear this f***ing house. Hey, DMs who cherish raw over player enjoyment. Raw meaning rules as written. Alright, here's my worst. Move to a new town, put on Facebook page that I'm looking for group systems XYZ. Person says, yeah, I can run Z. 2 other players all sign up. DM decides they want to run totally freeform, no rules imagination game instead. Decide, I'll sit it out for at least 1 session. 1 player makes some stupid Pathfinder hair witch or something. 1 player makes a tiger fursona. Fursona doesn't even show up to first session. Nope, right out of there. I ended up moving into the hair witch player's apartment like 3 years later. Man, was it a good apartment. Quest had us going to a castle that is being besieged by orcs. Along the way, we spot another castle that is burning. We go to investigate it and find no one around and no damage to the castle. We spend the next 2 hours wandering around the castle, solving a bunch of pretty boring puzzles that we encounter. Suddenly, the castle disappears. It was an illusion being cast by a nearby wizard. We demand to know why the wizard f***ed with us like this, and he just shrugs and says, I just felt like it. The DM just wanted to waste the group's time for no reason. I might have been okay with it if the castle puzzles were at least a little bit interesting, but I left this group soon afterwards. Dark Heresy game. 8 f***ing players. The plot itself is kinda generic, but not terrible. His combat scenarios were fun at least. DM also invited a guy who looks like the 4chan straw man of the soy meme. Soy guy, in return, invites his girlfriend. She only ever showed up 1/3 of the time, while her boyfriend would f*** off from the game for hours on end, doing God knows what. Anytime she didn't show up, the session would be cancelled for the week. She and her boyfriend barely ever participated, much less roleplayed. Finally, call her out on it. Uses her job as an excuse, as if no one else in the group has a job or responsibilities. She gets one of the other players kicked from the group because he provided mild criticism of her artwork that she would post constantly, and he refused to back down when she got pissed at him for it. The game eventually fizzles out shortly after we get thrown back in time to the Horus Heresy for some reason. Any online apocalypse world group that I've ever joined, I just find the world so compelling, minus the blatant Mad Max ripping-offs. I tried multiple times to do a play-by-post because it's a rules-light game, and because there's sex moves and people cross-playing as girls, and that works a lot easier if I never have to hear them speak. Every time I tried, it died out, and people would be like, dude, my character wears seashells on their head. But not even in an artful way, just absolute stupid lols random shit. Now, there were a few players who actually made really good characters and even supplied music, and it was very soulful, but it all went to shit in the end. Did this several times, then gave up. Why does the Apocalypse World fanbase have to be so cringy? All of their communities are tiptoeing around each other almost as bad as RPG.net. Ooh, that's a call-out. Am I in some sort of bizarre limbo where I'm the only one who wants to play AW who isn't a special little snowflake? For f***'s sake, the game is about gritty, hard choices and everything having a cost. It's supposed to be edgy and brutal. That doesn't really affect the game that much, but still. PBTA groups are the fucking worst, though. I hate those games in general, but Apocalypse World is great because it's the whole package, as it was meant to be. Unfortunately, I don't really have the creative spark or the energy to do a game of it anymore. Of course, I will make my suffering your suffering as well. Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it. We have the Edgelord, the guy who made the schizophrenic, transgender, murder hobo that lolly-cloned my character. Here's one of the other players say they're tired of playing one of their characters. They decide that this means they want the character gone forever, and the obvious solution to that is to make a terrorist OC with 2 legendaries come out of nowhere to kidnap that character and brainwash them into being a pet with drugs. Terrorist is understandably hard to beat because they basically have 2 demigods, and if you do have them cornered, they ass-pull a teleport or some crap to get out of there. I start making plans out of character about how my character will use some similar canon game mechanics to trap their team in the battlefield multiple times over, so they can't escape with a trap evading move or ability. They hear this and state out of character that they'll just use 2 trap evading escape mechanics together, entirely unprompted in-universe, simply so their terrorist, who is still holding one of the characters captive, can keep escaping. You slimy metagaming f***. But that's not even the worst part. Oh, no. Everyone is already uncomfortable with this plot, but one night, one of the members said their sister was just assaulted at a bar while drunk, and the whole brainwashing with drugs plotline was now making them extra uncomfortable, and could they please cut that shit out already? Spoiler alert, they did not cut that shit out. Everyone hated Edgelord at this point. We actually made a secret server just to discuss how much we hated them, but we couldn't do much yet because, well, they were a mod. Eventually, mostly because they were getting tired of my overwhelming autism and persistence in having my character chase down their ass-pull villain, they just let the character go, deciding they're more trouble than it's worth. Villain themselves still get away, but the hostage is free, so I guess I consider it a win? Not too soon after, the owner of the server, who had not been doing much after everyone complained about his strict quote-unquote DMing in a free-to-form group, not realizing his rules autism was the only thing holding back this mega autism tidal wave of "We are all DMs now, laddie," steps in and demods the fucker. We decide on banning them, but for some fucking reason, they decide to change it to just a temporary mute so they can't participate for a while. Why? Why was I the only one opposing this reduced sentence? I actually went around to every server I could find linked on VP, as well as some Pokemon ones on, of course, Trash, to warn them about this Edgelord, who I'd assumed would get bored with having to sit around to do nothing and try to find another server. Eventually, they were unmuted and no longer a mod and started participating again, all still just as power gamey and meta gamey as ever, and still a smug piece of garbage. Everyone still hated them, so why not ban them? But I was seen as the asshole for continuing to be belligerent with them to their face instead of doing it all behind their back like catty cowards. Edgelord also described themselves as simultaneously an anarchist and a Trump supporter, and said his beliefs were esoteric. I guess he thinks misusing big words makes him sound cool. He was just a train wreck in general, but sadly, we were all passengers in this wreck instead of bystanders. Okay, so I'm just gonna be putting in some input here. If you have a group full of people that are literally just out to cause as much disgusting chaos as possible, such as assaulting characters or harassing people or just doing things that generally in no capacity would be even remotely okay with anyone, I would say just leave. Don't bully anybody. Don't bully the bully, because that just makes you look like an idiot too. But seriously, be safe. We want you at MrRipper to be safe and to be happy. I don't care what game you play. I don't care what fandoms you like, as long as you're okay, safe, and happy. That's just a little love from Brian Von VA. Never join a roleplay group from this site, and if you do it anyways, like a dumbass, at least make sure it's not on VP. One guy has a character whose parents put a rod in his head to experiment on him or something, and this somehow leads him to making a lowly clone of another player's character. Their first character later kills some dude because he wanted the cool mask the dude had, and then decides to just transfer their spirit into a cloned body, but female. That's not even the worst story from that particular player, just a first red flag, so to speak. Another one creates an entire fake region, and since they made it up themselves, naturally that means only they can write for it. So now they have control over a whole country. All its gym leaders, its government, its legendary Pokemon, and some necromancer sex cult that they made up, which all comes in handy to railroad the plot through sheer force if things go in a direction they do not like. Not even the worst power gamer. The first dude I mentioned liked to combine power gaming and metagaming together to make invincible villains that, well, nobody was allowed to beat except their characters who never actually got around to it. I came into the group with shitty "that guy" tier writing, but the sheer amount of unholy ignorance I found in there set me on the straight path for good. I think we had every kind of quote-unquote "that guy" in that server. I saw maybe every example of what not to do firsthand, and I'm better off for it. They also initially had a rule that you had to have original artwork of your character, and said if you couldn't draw that, you should just commission someone. It was totally unrelated to the fact some of the active members had friends who made a living doing commissions, and I remember multiple rants of the VPOC threads, which were realistically just thinly veiled recruitment threads for the group because people smarter than me kept leaving when they saw the situations there, about how you hate your character if you haven't commissioned art of them. Later, people who joined, or those with multiple characters, weren't subject to this rule, which was interesting to say the least. I guess they gave up on that when the coercion didn't work. I just made a sprite edit of some shitty 64x64 pixel art to bypass the rule. I have never seen another group with a rule like that, especially not some lax freeform one coming with that shit out of nowhere. Online Roll20 game described as majority roleplay. Party starts off as slaves, escape, and then are immediately made into debt slaves for not having passports to enter the trade city we escaped into. Slavery is apparently illegal, but our debt slavery, which we're fitted with collars which explode if we stray too far away from our new employer, is apparently A-okay. Debt is something like 3,000 gold pieces. We were at level 3, mind you, but the owner, it says he's willing for us to pay off the debt in exchange for doing a few jobs. These jobs are insanely difficult and almost impossible to accomplish. Every NPC that we meet is either an asshole for no reason to the party or a miserable, depressed sack of shit. DM seems to think that the majority of the roleplay means nothing happens because the game moves on a glacial pace, and it takes 6 sessions to even get to our first quest location. Monk keeps stuttering over his words, interrupting other players, and taking over a minute to describe a single attack in combat. The Bard keeps doing stuff like running off into the forest and making the party have to go and fetch her because of her character's trauma, which, it turned out, she was using as a therapeutic device to deal with some trauma of her own. Ranger keeps interrupting everyone and the DM to describe the most menial shit her character is doing, which has no relevance to what's going on at the time. Hey everybody, Brian Von VA checking in after the vid. Please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, ring that bell, and let us know down below what's the worst group you've been a part of, and why was it the worst group for you? Make sure to be safe, be happy, be healthy out there, and no matter what, don't let a dang soul ever tell you who or what you can and can't be. I love you all. Please be safe, happy, and healthy. See you next time. Bye for now.